Joe here, your reliability man, bridging the gap between best practices and the reality you live every day. Today's topic is beware of KPIs. Today also, I'd like for you to hit like or hit dislike based on the content that you're hearing here today. Not getting a lot of feedback here, folks. I know everybody can do it. It's just one simple button. Hit like or dislike. Commit to that today. I keep hearing a lot and reading a lot about KPIs as the measure of success as you're going on your reliability journey. You know, the old adage, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. You know, there's enormous amount of truth in that, but there's a lot of caution, a lot of deception, and a lot of manipulation when it comes to KPIs that you need to understand. So I created my top 5 list of KPI lies. Number 1, PM compliance, okay? Extremely misleading. You know, all work is treated the same. So if you're doing a work order for inspecting a ladder, inspecting a sump, inspecting a drinking water fountain, inspecting the lights, all those count the same as adding lubrication to a critical PC. Okay, so it's very easy to have all these miscellaneous work orders pile up, and there are hundreds and hundreds of those, and then the ones in your critical assets, there may be just a couple dozen of those. So you can very easily show a PM compliance in the 90s when you are not maintaining your asset. Extremely deceptive. Schedule compliance can be very misleading. You know, discovery work is often a surprise that comes up during a planned outage. So you have an 8-hour outage and then you find out, oh my gosh, we have to change out this bearing. We were just planning on lubricating. So a lot of other smaller jobs get stopped in their tracks, and then you get focused on this larger rebuild. You have to turn over the asset back to production in 8 hours, so you complete that larger rebuild, and you kind of did a quarter to a half of the PMs on some of the other pieces of equipment, that go along with this critical asset, and then at the end of the outage, you close everything out. And that closing it out makes it look like you did everything, because, you know, hey, we're going to shut it down for 8 hours next month and going to be doing some of the similar work. So let's just close that out, clean up the paperwork, move on. So that schedule compliance gives you the illusion that you completed the work that's in that schedule. Schedule efficiency. This is one of the worst things that I see. This is a measure of, hey, I planned the job for 8 hours, it took 8 hours. I planned the job for 4, it took 4 hours. You know, most often jobs are scheduled as high as 80% work is discovery work. So the work takes 2 hours, but they plan it for 8, just in case something happens. Just in case something goes wrong, they get pulled off to do unplanned work, there's some discovery work, let's put that in there. Everybody loves to have fat in their plan. So the schedule efficiency, those numbers are typically in the extreme high 90s, a lot of times 100%. So it's a very misleading number, schedule efficiency. PDM work, percent of work hours, is one that I really targeted hard at my plant, but I found out there's a lot of manipulation with it. For example, you know, I had 10 full-time PDM technicians, okay? It was routine for them to be called off of doing that job to do to support discovery work on an outage, or to support unplanned work, you know, radio phone calls on an asset is down here or there. It was as high as 80%. So as high as 4 days out of 5, they were not doing PDM. Well, guess what they were charged with at the end of the week? They were charged for 40 hours towards predictive maintenance type work. Extremely misleading. Planned work percent. You know, very common metric. How much of our work is planned? How much is unplanned? Well, what you find is most organizations, they have planned work crews out there, and then if an emergency call comes up, they pull them off the planned job. So the planner just plans in an additional 40, 50, 60, 80% hours to a job, knowing that they're going to be pulled off. And at the end of the week, you don't have work orders for those emergency jobs that they got pulled out of, to work on, so their time all gets charged to planned work. Does that make sense? So it makes sense what happens, but it's very deceptive. So at the end of the week, you look like your planned work compliance is a very high number, 80, 90%, when in actuality, it is about half that. So those are my top five KPI lies. Okay, so my advice, what do you do going forward? You have to supplement KPIs with observation, folks. You have to verify it. Observations conclude with specific action. You make an observation around, you know, maybe it's pulling PDM technicians off to do emergency work. You see that. You don't see it from the KPI, but you see it from your chalk circle observations, and you can take action on that. KPIs, you can't take, they're not actionable numbers. You just see the number and you don't know what to do next. Gotta supplement with observation. Most improvements in KPIs, folks, I'm telling you, they're pencil work. They're just pencil work, and they're not indicative of real change. Number two piece of advice, target waste elimination. Waste elimination. Where do I see waste, and you know, how does that impact the KPI? But where do I see waste? You need to be a waste-driven organization. And KPIs needs to be information, but not your sole measure of are you making improvement inside of your reliability journey. Number three, emergency work and unplanned work. I use those two terms interchangeably. The best thing I've seen is you got to completely separate a crew of people that are doing the emergency work from the planned work. Completely separate them. You cannot have 20 people. That's your total craft organization. You can't have them all doing planned work and then just peel off, you know, when emergency work comes up and in their area, because you have no indication of how much planned work they're doing and unplanned work they're doing. Completely separate those crews, create work orders for the work they're doing, so you have time or you have data to troubleshoot with your reliability engineers. Along with that, inside of your emergency and work and unplanned work, put controls in place so the supervisor or whoever's directing your unplanned work crew cannot pull planned resources without approval. So if you have 20 craft people, say, and then you got 5 people on emergency work, and that supervisor or the person making the decision wants to have 8 people on emergency work, they can't make that decision on their own. Okay, they can't make it on their own. And by putting in this check, going up, you know, one level in the organization, I've seen 90% of the time that the supervisor finds another way. The easy button is to pull the PDM resources or to pull the planned work crew, because they're not doing anything important, right? So put in place a additional check, an additional layer of approval to pull planned resources. Pulling planned resources, you know, 1 hour of work in that arena and planned eliminates 7 to 10 hours of unplanned down the road. So don't make that easy. Don't make that easy. So that's my advice on KPIs. Okay, great. Hey, begin your journey, folks. This reliability game is not that hard. Just got to you got to understand what you're doing. You got to target waste. You got to use observation. Don't buy into KPIs, hook, line, and sinker. They're not horrible, but they can be very deceptive. Hey, please give me a comment. Watch my other YouTube videos. You can reach out to me for some pointers via the email link that's below. Hit subscribe. Have a nice day.